live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, on a spectacular day here in Newport Beach. It's about 70 degrees, kind of sunny, a little breeze blowing, and it's a perfect day for a little Democracy Radio Network chat. And I'm going to want to, before I tell you about our special guest today, I want to kind of lead us in with a little bit of Niccolo, and let's kind of set the mood. So, yeah. All right, guys, we'll kind of let Nick rock a little bit later. I just want to play us in a little happy music for Wednesday. And let's do one more matter of internal housekeeping. And you guys know that I really had a desire to see Ada win big time. And and this is exactly why. It's about a minute long. Let me play it for you.
So I got this in my mailbox yesterday, and I thought, that's interesting. I don't remember ever sitting on a gold couch wearing a shiny gold jacket. And then I realized that they photoshopped me. This picture, and honestly, it's very flattering that they would Photoshop me hanging out in such a cool, trendy place. And who are the masterminds who came up with this message? Well, I have an answer. According to the documents that came out yesterday, it's the pollsters for the NRA, the Republican National Committee, and Devin Nunes. And that is the best they can do. Unfortunately, you're going to be seeing much more of this. Donald Trump's closest allies, corporations that have given him more than $20 million, are a part of a group that has already committed to spending $3 million to defeat me, because they're afraid of a union leader and a proud immigrant who will take them on and win. Many of these same corporations are attacking me, are profiting millions of dollars off of ICE contracts. So you're probably going to see me photoshopped into a whole lot of other things this election cycle. I hope they Photoshop me somewhere fun. But please remember, these are all lies, and they are funded by Donald Trump's allies.
Guys, I think we see the point here, and my reason for showing that, in addition to being committed to Ada as a candidate, is that I want everybody to understand the lengths that the Republicans are going to make sure they keep power. I've yet to figure out what makes Ada not the American dream. Came here from Nicaragua as a refugee with her parents, got a job in a hotel, organized the workers, became a union leader and president. And to me, that's working your way up by your bootstraps. And if that's not the American success story, I don't know what is. And, you can tell how good someone is because that's when they start spending a lot of money to defeat them. So anyway, I want to kind of make that point once again, like I try to do at the top of every show. But later, in a few short minutes, we're going to have a guest, Sussannah Brown. And Susanna's running for Assembly District 30, which is near Cambridge and the Central Coast and all that. And like I said, this is her, I think this is her maiden run for Assembly. And I'm going to tell you, there are some politicians you want to talk to more than others. And the reason I wanted to chat with Sussannah in particular was not only does she provide data-driven, not only can she analyze data-driven problems, but she can provide data-driven solutions. I mean, and think about this: a data-driven solution is one that's clearly based on facts and data. Now, if you remember, that's just the opposite of what we have now. We have the opportunity in Cambridge Central and Central Coast District 30 to elect someone with an eye and a vision towards the future. Um, like I say, I had wanted to chat with Susanna deliberately, and I'm really glad she's able to come on. She'll be on in about I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I've given her a little leeway to to make sure she's good and ready, and then we're going to hear from Susanna, and we're going to, of course, go through like why she got here and or how she got here, and um, her vision. And as I looked at her website and her platform, that's exactly what I saw was a vision. And the best part about the vision what is that Susanna has the capability to build it. I mean, she can analyze the data, come up with a solution, and then act on it. Now, from my perspective, that's pretty much who I would like to see in up in Sacramento. I know everybody's different, but like I said, hopefully California is still a reliably Democratic state. And but there's a reason it's a Democratic state, and the reason is Democrats usually provide answers and not rhetoric. Oh, by the way, if you agree with me, give me a call 949-629-3820. If you disagree, give us a call too 949-629-3820. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And just out of curiosity, anybody been to Cambria lately? Uh, I really like that area. I think that's where California just starts to turn rugged around Cambria and up to Big Sur and uh, Mendocino and geez, I'm trying to recount the places. But anyway, District 30 is really pretty, and if you get a chance and want to do a little ecotourism, Cambria is a really nice place. If you're going all the way up to the Redwoods, Cambria is a nice overnight stop. And so I'm really excited about this. The first time I had been to Cambria, I had taken my mother there. She wanted to see it. And we just fell in love with this little motel, the Cambria Shores. And it was a real dog friendly hotel. So not only did she get to bring her little dog, but I had my golden retriever. And it's Cambria's just nice. It's laid back. It's where you start getting the Northern California mellow vibe. So anyway, Cambria, Susanna Brown, let's put her in office in Assembly District 30. If there's a better candidate, I hadn't come across them. And I mean, what Susanna offers, I mean, it's just priceless. A vision and the means to create it, to implement. And I'm not talking about like a, Donald Trump king, whatever it is. I'm talking about real problems like housing. I mean, I know for a fact that housing and infrastructure are really major concerns in California cities and towns. And we'll be looking forward to hear what Susanna offers in that direction. She's a an energy consultant, I think, uh, and you can't. Again, in California, we have this kind of like water problem. We're subject to droughts. We don't always get rain, um, so that means you have a water supply problem, and on top of that, it kind of infers an energy problem. And then you have to have water and energy delivered reliably. Um, I'm not. I know absolutely nothing about that stuff, and I'm looking forward to having Susanna kind of educate me a little bit. And let's see, as I my best, you guys are depending on my recollection, but how about this will. I mean, she wants stable school funding. so schools can keep trying to educate kids and trying to give them a foothold in this radically different America that we're looking at now. And I, to be honest with you, I never understood how anyone could vote against a school bond issue or school issue in any way. I know there's some dispute about the teachers union, this, that, and the other, but beyond that, that's a collective labor problem. That's not a teacher problem. So you can see where that kind of means something. And yeah, I mean, a science department needs certain funding. It might not be able to get the whatever it is to dissect, or the kids might not be able to see the visible man with the skeleton and the internal organs, and try to get them interested in all science and medicine. And schools are one of those things that it's not a super popular position, but I don't mind throwing money at it. I mean, let's get the standards up. We're losing ground daily. Uh, let's get the kids the best possible chance to succeed in the future. And teachers have an inordinate amount of influence. The kindness of a first or second grade teacher may make the difference between an honor roll student and a non-honor roll student. Uh, I've always believed in investing in teachers and school funding. I don't know if they let. I'm sure they let. Well, I don't know. I don't know if they let schools issue bonds or not. But if it was a government entity that ever deserved funding, it's schools for kids. And another thing, why don't we kind of give kids priority in lots of these instances? I mean, the only thing we've seen fit to give them is a 40-something trillion-dollar debt, and I just don't understand how it's going to excite someone. That's a lot of cheese there, $40 trillion. And the awkward thing is, the last 4 trillion were entirely Trump caused. Yeah, and of course, and one of the big topics we'll get into later. I just have to uh, make a little diversion or excursion or whatever he says. Uh, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this Trump IRS settlement, DOJ IRS settlement. Like I said, I haven't delved into the intricate details of the one-page note, but just as a general proposition, the only type of person that's under a criminal investigation that asks for immunity and immunity going forward is usually a criminal. The exact people that shouldn't get the immunity, much less they have it apply to every entity named Trump under the sun. But the way we get back is with integrity and knowledge and sound reasoning. We have room to make a little emotional appeal also. I'm sure people are more than a little upset about what's been going on. But every 24 hours is a new, and I don't want to say distraction, because that doesn't do it justice. A new false claim, another lie that impacts society. And Trump and Republicans just do this daily, as if it's their God-given right as the winners of the presidential election. And no matter who you are, we have the Constitution, or we had the Constitution. And the other thing about, matter of fact, it's on the Supreme Court. Equal justice under law. You walk into as you on the outside, walking up, and it's there on the top of the columns. But yeah, equal justice for all. Now, there's an exception to that rule, and it goes something like equal justice for all if you have the right attorney, or if you just have to be a billionaire. And what I really don't understand in that deal, I mean, I get the just the craven corruption. I completely get that. But what I don't get is how you can have a settlement that confers upon one family and one family only a guarantee of no audits. Okay? I mean, how does that, wouldn't only a criminal kind of want that? And of course, it's in the agreement. I kind of think that to give to base a legal settlement on something that seems to violate public policy, I think that might make it examinable by a court. Someone's going to file bring an action about this. Don't forget, you wear suits, you bring actions. So somebody's going to contest this, and if it gets heard, God only knows it'll have to go to Supreme Court, just because that's how things go these days. And that's and Trump designed it like that. So, but can you imagine? I'm gonna let you go. You hurt me, but I tell you, you hurt me. But I don't want the whole 10 billion. Just give me like 1.8 and immunity for my family from any criminal tax activity. I just don't think those kind of things are helpful. They clearly contravene public policy. And when the Democrat judges prevailed, they would make decisions based on social policy, based on what the outcome would likely be and who it would affect, as opposed to the intellectual dishonesty of the majority and the intellectual dishonesty of the whole Four Corners movement, which is, if it's not written in the four corners of the Constitution, it doesn't exist. And the reason that's so narrow-minded is there is no way the founders, uh, intended that. It's just an outright violation. But the Supreme Court just has given every indication they're in the bag, and things are such that Democrats expect to get ruled against regularly. So, what can we do? We can vote. We can put decent, honest Democrats in office. Notice I didn't say decent, honest people. I said decent, honest Democrats. And the reason for that is I don't I don't think we'll ever trust a Republican's word again. I mean, who in their right mind would believe a word that came out of Donald Trump's mouth? And I tell this about, I keep going back to credibility. Who do you believe? Who can you believe? I'm convinced that after our chat, you will believe in Sussannah Brown such that you'll vote for her enthusiastically. Maybe even volunteer to help her out if you're listening from Cambria or San Simeon or any of those cool places. Moonstone Beach. Geez, we're not right across the street from Cambria Shores. I tell you, I like that place. Okay, so guys, that's and I'm going to want to kind of touch on the last item or two that I think we can expect Sussannah to chat about. And she wants to make sure that whoever represents Cambria has a real sense of the community, an authentic sense of the community, and she brings that. She's I guess, Cambrian, and guys, women, whoever it is, let's get those early ballots done and let's vote for Sussannah Brown. Wouldn't it be nice to have in California, there's no shortage of educated people, but there are some people that bring qualities together, like integrity and drive and vision and motivation. And that's my perception of Sussannah Brown. Sorry, I was thinking about somebody else there. Yeah, so that's what Sussannah Brown brings. And I don't expound on this a lot, but Yeah, you can tell when politicians are out to do good and for whom they're out to do good. Uh, there's some politicians that view that view public service as an opportunity to, cash in on the side, make a little slide money. Uh, and let's see, what do I always talk about? Credibility. Who do you believe? I think at the end of the day, I say you'll fill out that ballot or pull that lever for Susanna Brown and make Cambria proud. And guys, I say after we chat with Susanna, we'll move into the $1.8 billion settlement between Trump's Justice Department and Trump's IRS department. Uh, that I mean, that just seems so patently conflicted that it boggles the imagination. I have no idea what those big time conservative judges are thinking. I'll be curious to hear. I'll check and see what old Judge Lutig has to say. Michael Lutig, he was a big help. Even and those guys voted Democrat. I mean, can you imagine? They voted Democrat, Michael Lutig. Uh, and there's no shortage of people that are aware of the situation as it exists and where the situation is likely to go. So these guys abandoned their long-term party for this. We've seen not many, but a few politicians change from Democrat to Republican and Republican to Democrat. But this time is different. This time is different. And the reason it's different is we are playing against someone who is dedicated to staying in power no matter how. Before, if you wanted to stay in power, you ran for election and you won or lost. But now we've got this element of creative uncertainty. And the reason it's creative uncertainty is because there was no uncertainty before the election. It was all created. And, it always starts with Trump. That's a hoax. You can't believe that. Well, hell. No, Donald. You get it wrong. You're the one we don't believe. If you call it a hoax, that means I'll go buy some tomorrow. That means it's 110% real if you call it a hoax. And, we've had the Russia hoax, the climate hoax, God knows, the Epstein hoax. And guys, I'm going to tell you, you don't have those sort of people and those sort of activities directed at you unless there's some fairly good connection. But somehow he managed to get another a group of people to vote for him. I don't. I mean, I can understand outright racists voting for him. I can understand, like, the deep South, the Mississippians and the Georgians and the backwoods and all that. And the truth of the matter is, down in that part of the South, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, so on and so forth. What happens is a white person just will not. If a black person votes for one person, they will automatically vote the other way, regardless of who it is or what it is. They just, whatever it is, they consider themselves better than our fellow citizens, regardless of skin color. I mean, that stuff's just, pigment. But that I can understand, the racial appeal. I just didn't know there were that many races to appeal to. I had, I knew racism wasn't gone. And like I said, I'm from the South, so I know about this stuff. And it was so funny. I thought the day the justices entered that Louisiana decision that approved the gerrymandered map that eliminated the black district, as soon as the order came down, or decision came down from the Supreme Court, you had southern states rushing to redistrict. Okay, just rushing to redistrict. So I mean, isn't that evidence in and of itself of racism existing? You know, they can't. You know, Kavanaugh wanted to end the Voting Rights Act for a while because they wanted to declare that America is now free of racism, and that blacks no longer need these special protections. And I think anybody in the real world uh, knows that racism still goes on, and it would be really nice to acknowledge it. And I see not one thing wrong with having a black seat or two if it's based on representing the public, then there should be a seat like that. If there are a substantial number of blacks in any community, you would hope the representation would be proportional. Now, I mean, in the South, it's not like that. I can clearly tell you it's not like that. Uh, but what is, and the only thing that's so bad about fairness is that the Republicans, it's just they cheat. It's unfair. There's a reason that the 2020 election gave rise to the big lie. They didn't call it the big truth or the gospel according to. It was just a lie. Not only was it a lie, but then you had January 6th on top of it. Um, what do you do with these guys? They they're like the Vikings way back when. They would just sail down to England and just take over a town and terrorize the rector. And oh, look at that, Susanna, is that you?
Hi.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you too.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. I was just telling people that the reason I was particularly keen to chat with you is not only can you provide data-driven analyses of problems, you can provide data-driven solutions to problems.
Yes.
And I'm going to just kind of turn it over to you and ask you if you'd just tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're running at this particular time.
Sure. I'm Sussannah Brown, and I am a data scientist by trade profession. And what I do is I try to help the community understand our very complex problems and how we can work together to solve them. That's kind of it in a nutshell. But I'm also a mom. I have two small kids in public schools.
Oh, you kidding?
So, yeah, so I have a really strong passion to support our school systems just from seeing through the pandemic. And since then, like the things that have been funded and the things that have been cut. And I've worked with our school district leaders in our district and a couple districts around here, trying to give them that data-driven perspective as well. And so I learned so many things that weren't happening. And I finally just got to the point where a lot of people are saying, you have all the right solutions, you have all these great ideas, and why aren't you running? And so I finally decided, okay, I'll run.
Well, I'm glad they talked you into this.
Yeah, me too.
Has Cameo been pretty receptive to your proposals or your platform?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Has Cameo been pretty receptive to your ideas?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. I probably interrupted, but
Oh,
and let me ask you this: I'm sure housing is a problem, like every other place in California, and I'm sure you have some thoughts about that.
I do. Yeah. So in my profession, what I normally do is I work in housing, and I've worked for over 10 years looking at different housing developments and how we can move them forward, the advocacy that is needed at the local municipality area, and then on the state level, what are the holdbacks often on housing developments that are already entitled and they just sit there vacant lots forever. And when I started looking at all of these components of energy and water and schools plus housing all together, I realized a lot of things that can be easily put into housing right away that would streamline the process and actually make the price a lot lower for people who would be purchasing houses, but also that we need more rentals. And I think people forget that aspect, that rentals are also a great space for a lot of different reasons, for people who have, migratory jobs, or they don't have the credit, or they just don't want the overhead, responsibilities of home ownership, or maybe they're a student and they're just here for a few years, or, there's so many reasons why people need rentals, and we need to start making the process easier, not just for home buyers, but also for people to have the ability to even get into a rental, which means we need to build more rentals. So I've seen a lot of these things through the housing developments I've been working on, and tried to make as much impact as I can. But I know the state level would be the best way to make these decisions across the board.
Well, I'm curious. I saw one of these the other day. And what are your thoughts on these tiny home communities?
I think they're wonderful. I think that it gives a place for that community. I know during COVID, a lot of us, at least I live on a cul-de-sac, and there's about 15 houses that are on one cul-de-sac street. And all of us during the pandemic, we would sit together and have our dinners at the end of our street driveways. And we built like a little community, and all of our driveways are pretty close. And it really reminded me of these tiny home communities, that aspect of eating and dining and getting to know your neighbors can really be met just by being closer together. And also it gives the affordability to a lot of people, and seniors as well, who don't need a lot of space, or, again, students or working individuals. We really could just use more walkability as well with those tiny homes.
Right. I mean, I just think that's I just think that's an elegant solution, because I think that people to get off the street or whatever will go any place that they have a key for, a room that's private, or a door, whatever it is. And I think those tiny homes are just, I could say priceless, but I do think they're very important. And I'm glad to hear you kind of agree with them. And I've got to tell you, on your school position, I will never understand why people shortchange schools. Is that not the best, cheapest investment we can make, is in schools? So anyway, just wanted to mention how much I dislike the fact that schools aren't funded to the degree they should be to really benefit the students. But anyway, what else would you like to chat about?
Oh yeah, sorry, my internet went down. I live
That's okay.
on the edge of town, and the internet is not super great here.
That's quite all right. I'm really kind of glad, because that means the fault wasn't on my end. That's perfectly all right. Anyway, I was just kind of moaning about the fact that schools aren't funded to the degree that they should be. I can't get over that.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell me a little more about your vision for Cambria and what you'd like to do in the assembly once you get there.
Yeah, well, Cambria is such a unique situation. I know I've been talking to a lot of people that have been coming to some meetings that I've been doing on the coast, and the situation with Cambria is so dynamic, especially with the water, and understanding that water is really needed and wanted in Cambria. And it's not because they want to see a whole bunch of growth and mega structures and infrastructure built. It's because a lot of these people want to build an ADU onto their house, or they have land that they want to develop into getting, another mother-in-law quarters or something like that, or even a rental property. So I think solving the water problems in Cambria would be one of the top things that someone in assembly could do, just because it's something that also requires infrastructure grants and fundraising at the state level, so that the communities don't have to carry that burden, which is unrealistic for a community like Cambria to be able to solve this water issue alone. But you can look at local communities also that are doing a lot of things with the rivers that are coming out of, like the San Antonio, and there's a lot of water that they could be recycling and reusing before it even gets to down the hill. So there's a lot of solutions that we just need more infrastructure funding for, that would prioritize Cambria with that water. And it would also help the tourism area too, if they know, in a drought year, they don't have to have closures of bathrooms and things like
Right.
that. So,
Oh, well, that begs a question. I've always wondered why Americans don't have cisterns in their, on the outside to collect rainwater, and I just never understood that. It always seemed like such a simple thing to do.
yeah. And there's so many things that by putting a variety of water saving measures into Cambria, but also looking into more desal. I know that during the last drought, it was pretty much forced on Cambria, but I want to say it only operated for like 100 days or less or something crazy. But I think that being serious and proactive about the future of the coast and the water sustainability, and while protecting the coastline, is so important, and having a proactive approach to it so that it's not, oh, what's going to happen next year? Are we going to have water? If we have a fire, will we have water to protect our community? And also to protect against flooding, because as we all know, Cambria is very susceptible to the water coming right down those streets as well, with the hills and everything. So it kind of comes hand in hand that we don't want too much water all at once. We need to be proactive, but we also do get water. So we need to make sure we're using that water really responsibly, and also protect our natural coastline as well. I know I was talking to a couple actually from Cambria last week, and I introduced the idea of more desal up there, and they were concerned about the outfall from that. And it's such an important topic that our county actually is spending, a couple $1 million right now doing some studies to see where the most responsible place along the coast right here would be to put a desal outfall. And I know they're looking also at Los Osos and additional usage out in Avila and along the ports that we already have. But I do think that Cambria would be a great place, because there's a lot of the sea that mixes right around there because of all of the rocks. So the salt that would be, it's called brine, that would be put back out would be quickly mixed into the ocean, and it wouldn't really affect some of the slower churning waters. Like, for example, like if it was closer to one of the ports that had like Port San Luis has like the breakwater, if it was on that side, it wouldn't get mixed around as quickly, so it might be more salinated for some of the sea life, and we don't want to hurt any of the sea life as well. So we have to be very careful where we're putting all the brine. But I am hopeful that this study that's coming out soon will be really eye-opening to see that we can do these things. It will be safe, and that we can maximize our water for not just one area, but we really can start doing it for places like Cambria and Cayucas. I know has issues, and there's just it's all over the Central Coast.
Well, it sounds like Cambria really could use you. And let me ask you, what are your energy thoughts as far as energy reliability and infrastructure in or around your district?
Yeah, well, energy is just as important as water. We all want to keep our lights on. We need to keep our houses powered. And, for a lot of people, it's not just a commodity of luxury. It is a necessity for, medical equipment and for temperature control for our people who are more susceptible, and for our children and our seniors. I know even in my own kids' school, they don't have air conditioning, and some of these days get really, really hot in those classrooms. So it's not just thinking about powering, our internet and all of those fun things. It is really also about powering our farmlands and things that people don't also think of, in the medical facilities and such. But what we really need to focus on is energy production that is low cost for the ratepayers. Most importantly, we can't just be investing in things that are hopeful and not based on data, and that might cost more or will cost more for our ratepayers. But we also have to balance that with conservation. We cannot also move into any type of energy production that would cause harm for our communities or over industrialize our communities, which no one really wants that. If you're a local like myself, we really pride our open spaces and our sea life, and we do not want to see, at least from my opinion and a lot of my neighbors and community members' opinion, we don't want to see offshore drilling. We don't want to see offshore wind. We really want to protect the environment that we all have grown to enjoy and love for our generations.
Well, Cambridge's lucky to have progressive thinkers like you. Um, and let me ask you this. How long, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I've been to Cambria several times. You stay at the Cambria Shores with my dog and like everybody else. And
Yeah.
so Cambridge, and the stretch of beach that has the sea cows where they all want sun and fight and all that. Anyway, I always thought that's where Northern California started to get pretty, was in Cambria, and just gets super up from there. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, as far how what were some of the low cost to ratepayers energy production methods involved?
Yeah, there's a lot of math that's going around too. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty on um, the upcoming there. There with for example, for with Diablo, I know a lot of people understand that right now it's in what was that?
Oh no, somebody just walked in. I want to tell them I was interviewing you.
Oh yeah, no problem. I know that a lot of people understand what's happening with that is like they're in decommissioning right now. So the ratepayers, they're trying to protect them from having to foot that bill. But unfortunately, we all know that down the line, someone's got to pay for these things. And if we're not providing transparency on how energy is making the ratepayer have to pay for it, whether it's for administration or hardening our transmission lines to protect for fire. There's a lot of things that aren't directly affected by just making electricity, but all of the entire path that we have to consider when you're trying to make energy. And I think a big case for this is solar. A lot of us are very pro solar, but what we don't like is during non-peak times when it's not hot, we're actually producing more solar during the daytime than we really need. So all of that solar is going back onto the grid and they have to buy it from you. That's like under their contracts, they'll say they'll buy it for so many cents per kilowatt. And it's actually going back on the grid and they're not able to sell it in the moment that we're producing it during the peak times during regular days, not on heat days, but like regular days, like right today, like when it's 75 and beautiful, we're not all running air conditioners. And so what they do is they put that on the grid, but they aren't able to make a profit. In fact, they're actually subsidizing those costs back to the owners because we can't sell it for as much as they're paying the people who are producing. So there has to be some storage solutions in the future, and also understanding that we need a variety of types of energy being produced at different times of day and seasonally so that we're maximizing the cost for the ratepayer and we're not subsidizing one type or another and making it more expensive for anybody. But again, that's going to take someone that understands data and understands the entire process and not just what the end cost is on at the production site, but the entire through line from production of administrative and the transmission lines and all of the things that go into the grid.
Everything is really nuanced these days, and nothing's just a straight answer anymore, which makes your solutions even more valuable. I mean, I'm just, I've never been the most, data conscious guy. So now that I'm getting to chat with someone that is, I really appreciate how it applies to solving the problems that you're running to solve. And
Thank you.
gosh, and and another thing, my grandmother used to always do that. And another thing, as I was, looking at your platform and all this, you're obviously a person of great integrity. When you speak, you speak the truth and, based on data. And if there was ever a time for you, this is it. And I just, you have no idea how much I would, what I will do to help you. If you want to send me a video, I'm happy to play it on Instagram. I'll do anything I can do to
Thank
help
you.
somebody like you get elected. I mean, God knows you're a force for good. And
Thank
we
you.
really, those are in short supply right now. So we'd really like to have you.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think that it goes a long way too that I'm born and raised here. I'm not doing this because, I'm funded by Sacramento politics or someone's got my ear. I just hear all of these people around and have been, listening to the struggles of, the business owners, the working people, seniors worried about Prop 13. And, I experienced homelessness growing up. And there's just all of these lived experience moments that really make me feel that we've got to find people, not just myself, but we've got to get lots of people in our local government, especially, that understand our local problems. But we've also got to get them in our state government, because they need to be our real representatives, not just representing the political insiders in Sacramento.
No, I mean, it's the only way the problem's going to get really solved is working with others that, came before, and that's the assembly. Well, I can't wish you enough good luck in this race. And if you'd ever love to come back, I'd love to have you. Is there anything
Wonderful.
else that I'm neglecting to ask that you'd like to say?
Oh gosh. Well, no, I just want to say, just people should just be involved. Figure out how your local government works, especially in Cambria, where you have CSDs making decisions or not making decisions. There's a lot of things that happen that people aren't aware of that affects them, especially business owners, and insurance rules that are changing. Just learn what's happening that affects your business and your household, and get involved. Even if you don't understand all the details, just show up, listen to a meeting, listen to who's already in these conversations, and just be present, and you'll get the hang of it.
Well, yeah, I advocate people join the local Democratic club, and if it's an expensive Democratic club, I've even suggested, PayPal paying for. This is too important to do nothing.
Yeah.
And there's the old John Locke quote about all that's necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And thanks to people like you, people are standing up and running. We have quality candidates with dignity, and I think that's going to be a winning platform. And like I said, I'd love the opportunity to chat again if and when you're up to it.
I would love to. It was great chatting with you today.
Well, thanks a million. I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye, Sussannah. So, guys, that was Sussannah Brown from Cambria, California, running for Assembly District 30. And you heard her. Is she the kind of person you would represent? What do you think of her credibility? Did you believe her? Did you believe every word? I did. And like I say, credibility is just such a test. It's so crucial. Credible, and again, that came from the Latin, was creditus or something, and it meant worthy of being believed. And I'm going to tell you, Sussannah Brown is worthy of being believed in. I'm pretty sure that you could look, up and down the Central Coast, and you wouldn't find a more qualified, more passionate individual than Sussannah Brown. If you noticed when we chatted, she was a really elegant speaker because she understood an emotional appeal, but she really honed in the intellectual part of analysis and argument and analyzing positions to come to a solution. So I really hope that she wins. Like I said, we're happy to help her in any way. I hope she sends a video or two. We'd be awfully glad to add on to our ABBIE KAUFMAN favorite politician list. But now, excuse me, let me take a little swig. Doing that for my official democracyradionetwork.com mug. But what I want to talk about and I hope I don't get off on this too terribly much, but how do you ignore the $1.8 billion settlement, call it a settlement, that Trump's getting from the IRS? And not only that, to get this, none of his family will ever be audited. Now, doesn't that make you look twice? Who would not want to be audited? I mean, nobody likes being audited, but the only people that really would pay to avoid it are criminals. And it's, as you have noticed, it was $1.8 billion more for him, and even more bupkis for you. And I tell you, bupkis is a word my old friend Bobby Howe used to use, and Bupkis was interchangeable with Skidookus, and either way, you didn't want to get Bupkis or Skidookus. So yeah, so all men are equal under the law, except you've got this one exception: who can ever be audited by the IRS. Now, as I was doing a little background work on that, what I come across was the IRS actually had a way to defend it. The lawyers had drew like a 25-page memo, and it should have been dismissed outright. So they at least had a chance to do this. I mean, and what happens? Todd Blanche, Trump's attorney, personal attorney, overrides that decision. No, I think we want to settle this. And the next thing you know, I'm not saying it's not like next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. It's the next thing you know, old Trump's, kind of extorted more money. Now, let's see. There's the ballroom for him, the reflecting pond for him, the statue for him, the ark for him, the Trump Kennedy Center for him. What else? And what was in there for you? You get any of this? Nope. You got Bupkis or Skidookus. You got Bupkis. And if you got Bupkis, you ain't got nothing. So yeah, it's all for me and none for you. All for me and none for you. All for me and none for you. Are you guys sensing the pattern here? I mean, is this okay? Is this okay with you guys? And let's go further. What's he gonna do with it? Number one, you would have to think this you would have to think that he's gonna find a way to keep it and not spend any of it. But let's go a step further. What if he decides to spend the money? Who or what does he spend it on? Well, you could assume they could assemble a private army. I mean, if he took half of that, $900 million, I think he could probably put together a pretty good, decent, little army to defend, to keep you in power, and to, keep the law at bay. Now, isn't that amazing? We have to talk about this. But anyway, is he going to spend $900 million creating a private army? Or is he going to give $1 million to each one of those January 6th defendants with a plane ticket to Washington in January or November or something like that? I mean, the guy's just, if you don't think he's a thief, then explain to me how this ain't stealing. And don't get this violates public policy. To offer someone immunity forever. There might be have transactional immunity where you're immune from jail time for this testimony. But as a general proposition, it's supposed to be, equal justice under the law. And you can see what happens when, and don't forget, when you have a monarchy, a king, the laws, the rules of the country are what he says it is. In democracies and republics, it's what the people have decided through their representatives. And that's what we should have done. We should have had a separate vote on whether he gets the $1.8 billion. But, I'm sure we know that cheating would inevitably come up. Why? Because he has a history of doing that. I never attribute actions to people that aren't based on some sort of historical precedent. And the argument goes, if he cheated and lied once, he cheated and lied again. But it's a little more extreme, because if he cheats and lies every time about everything, then what's off limits? The answer is nothing's off limits. Which is why the New York Times is a hoax. The Washington Post is a hoax. The Russian investigation was a hoax. The Epstein files was a hoax. Climate change was a hoax. Are you guys starting to get the picture here? Yeah, he's just, the president of the United States has no credibility. And because the president of the United States has no credibility, the United States has no allies. We really don't have any friends. I mean, who could we call to help us? Canada? Kind of doubt that one. Mexico and South America? Well, they're not too happy. Let's see. Could we call our friends in England? Nah, I don't think so after the King's visit. How about Spain, France, Italy, Portugal? Any of those guys feel like helping? Probably not. Greece or Turkey? No, not those guys. How about Moldova and Albania and Ukraine? We have, and I can't, it's bad to say we, but the United States has truly abandoned, the principles that the country was based on. For instance, the big, oh God, this was just unbelievable. Kind of how what sort of revisionist history they're providing, and now it seems as though the colonies were established from England and, for a place to have white Christians to go. Now, I think that if you kind of look at the history, or like Sussannah would say, the data, the unequivocal data, I mean, if you look at the data, people will not. They just can't be happy about all for me and none for you. Oh, you know what else? Let me kind of drive that home a little bit. A new $1 billion ballroom for me, and how about you lose your hospital? How about a reflecting pond makeover? Well, how about if you lose a little bit of your food stamps? You know, he and we always, it's a simple distinction. There are givers and takers, and I don't think Trump is a giver, if you know what I mean. I've actually heard that the guy's afraid to wear rubber shoes because he's afraid they might give a little bit. Uh, but yeah, I got to tell you, I was just shocked and amazed. One point when the IRS had a defense, and the IRS defense was looking so good, and it was based on flaws in Trump's complaint. But they looked, the IRS was looking so good in this deal. They had a good defense that was grounds for dismissal. And by the way, the smart attorneys take care of things like that procedurally. They don't let them go to trial. They take care of things procedurally. Not a problem with me, but smart people do that. Okay, so I'm going to try to kind of move on just slightly because I know I know I'm just going to get more upset, but I might just upset you guys even more. Let's see, but from the New York Times, that was the headline was the IRS settlement. And then we moved along through Ebola rage for weeks before the alarm was pulled. Well, what do you say? And now let's let's note in complete sadness and a moment of silence and all this for the worshipers that got killed in the San Diego mosque. It must have been the Islamic Cultural Center or something. And I want to tell you guys something. I was on a little spiritual journey a while back, and I went to the mosque, and I went to the Buddhist temple, and I went to the Sikh temple, and I went where else? Buddhist, Sikh. But anyway, and I'm not going to deny that the mosque, the Islamic Center was you could tell those little Orthodox, those guys were a little strict, if you know what I mean. But they're part of America too. And why? What did I just say? America was founded based on freedom of worship. You had uh, I don't know if you say Arabs. I don't know what the word is, but you had people that had cared enough to be at the mosque on an afternoon. And like I said, these are cultural centers and gathering centers. This is no different than the Jewish Community Center or the YMCA, whatever it is. But it's a house of worship. And two kids, 17 and 19, grabbed some guns and killed, what, three people there before they killed themselves. Or I think actually one guy killed the other guy, then killed himself. Uh, but yeah, think about that. Church shootings, same deal. It's a house of worship. I mean, you may not believe, and it doesn't matter if you do or not. But if you don't believe, all you have to do is just, you know, say, I don't believe. You don't have to think somebody's the devil. You don't have to think that a race of people or religion of people are dedicated to your destruction. I have no doubts that there's some of that out there. Um, but it's just so bad to uh, to invade a house of worship. I mean, every I think in every war, pretty much, it's recognized that you don't kill everybody, you don't massacre everybody in the church. That some places are off limits. Um, but again, see, off limits and on limits take some ability to distinguish nuances. And in case you haven't noticed, those guys in the White House and the federal government under Trump aren't too good about that. You know, so anyway, I do. My heart genuinely goes out to the. Hang on.
We have a student who needs to take an exam.
You have what?
A student who needs to take an exam in this room.
Okay.
And your speaking continuously is kind of distracting.
Yeah, I was interviewing somebody.
Pardon?
I was interviewing somebody.
I know, but if you'd like, I can set you up in a classroom too.
Oh,
Because this is supposed to be a quiet space.
okay. All right, well, I'll find a place. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, guys, hang on. We've got to relocate temporarily. Well, Janice, which classroom?
Actually, you know what?
I'll go outside. Don't worry
I
about
was
it.
going to say we could use classroom 2 for about 45 minutes.
That's okay. I'll just go outside.
Because we have to rearrange the furniture.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just go outside.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost back together. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry about that interruption, guys. We had to. My indoor secret location in Newport Harbor in Newport Beach, California, was suddenly viciously overrun by some space aliens that look like Bigfoot and wanted to talk about near-death experiences. Unfortunately, that was another radio show, so we'll give those guys to George Norrie and keep you guys for me. And I'm sure we would just. I was wrapping up my thoughts about Sussannah Brand moving into this $1.8 billion Trump slush fund deal. And have you ever noticed that it's that everything in a Trump deal only benefits Trump? And not, I mean, some of his buddies may make out, but you can rest assured, and I tell you this daily, that the most dangerous place in D.C. is between Donald Trump and a dollar. But having made that point, let's get back to chatting about some more or less current events. Even this could be really hard to top the Sussannah Brown interview. She was just dynamic. I've said for a while now that as Democrats, we have an abundance of riches in the candidate department. And, whether it's city council, state assembly, state senate, Congress, whatever it is, California has pretty good representation. I mean, I won't say that everybody's super bright out here, but I will tell you that Californians are a different breed when it comes to being data driven and getting results. And, it's like Mom used to say, when the rubber hits the road, when there's time to be traction, will this car give you traction? And my opinion is that the Sussannah Brown car will give Cambrians and Central Coasters traction. I was telling Sussannah I've been out there a lot and stay with Mom and my dogs and all that. And then I always thought Cambria was, a kind of a special place. And while I hated to hear the obstacles that they're facing, I was thrilled beyond words to hear Susanna's analysis and her solution. I mean, she's she's a keeper in the old representative department. I'm going to tell you, if you guys find a better candidate, I don't know what you'd have to do. I mean, she's, and again, hasn't she earned the right to at least be heard? And I think she has. I think that, there was an old movie a long time ago. I think maybe my parents or grandparents' age. And it was something about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, I think it was called. And about how this ordinary guy gets elected, goes to Congress, and slowly over time, Congress corrupts the incorruptible. And, but I don't, Sussannah Brown impressed me as a woman of strength and dignity. And God knows she's, how much brighter could she be? And, you guys have a really good representative choice up there. And, God knows, let's see her win. Okay, so we chatted about the mosque. And I'm not even going to talk about the abortion pill stuff or any of that. We're not going to talk about the murky trail, about how money gets to influencers. And that came about because I think that article was about somebody endorsing Tom Steyer. And it was really out of his character to do so. He's a Democrat or progressive or something. And he endorsed Steyer. And would you believe, I know this boggles the imagination, but would you believe that somehow or other Steyer paid him $100,000 for that endorsement. Good work if you can get it right. Yeah, but how did it get to the influencer? Well, you can be rest assured it wasn't just a check. It probably went through a pack or two, and God knows what. Again, there's no real truth with Trump. You can't, and he's pervasive. Even though we're talking about, Steyer and the influencer and the $100,000 endorsement. This is all Citizens United and money in politics. Another really devastating Supreme Court decision. And I'm going to tell you guys, I sincerely hope, and I have no idea what it would take to do this, but I sincerely hope that the next Democrat president gets to pack the Supreme Court. You would either need, the conservatives to die or resign. And, but the truth of the matter is, you don't want your granddad making these sorts of decisions. I said, what's his name? Clarence Thomas been on the bench 30 years or so? And I don't mean on the bench. I mean on the Supreme Court bench. And there's an old joke that the Supreme Court is infallible because from them there is no appeal. So they're perfect. Can't appeal it. It's got to be perfect. And those guys are, I think, used to that sort of complacency. And I think Supreme Court justices, because of the traditional independent nature of the judiciary, were meant to kind of keep by themselves. But in case you hadn't noticed, Trump changed that too. Was it Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett? It was three of them that went to to a state dinner for President Xi, I think it was. But you never had justices mixing it up with the legislative branches or executive branches. They were meant to be separate, detached, neutral, use whatever words you want to use. But when Leo, whatever his name was, from the Federalist Society, once those guys perfected the pipeline to the Supreme Court, they've been really hard to stop. And what I say is the pipeline is, someone will be on the federal bench, maybe not, but they'll usually be a member of the Federalist Society, which is a code name for the narrow-minded four-corner interpretation of the Constitution. And I'm going to tell you, I've always, or I've never understood that. The framers did not mean the document to be dated. They meant it to be organic and to evolve over time as the country evolved. Now, I know this makes it a little harder on the judges, but, you have to see the evolution from the law school. And don't forget, these Federalist societies start off in law schools. So the conservative people are plugged into this Leo, was it Leo Black or Leo something or other? Anyway, you see my point, I'm sure. So we'll try to move on from that just a little bit. But how about this? It's more about the 1.8 billion. So after the Todd Blanche draws the settlement up and all that, and don't forget, the IRS is being sued, so they have to defend this case. And their lawyers were ready to defend it. And they were ready to get it dismissed. But that wasn't what the Attorney General wanted, now was it? Well, no, we'll work around this for you, Mr. Trump, his personal attorney. I mean, these relationships and the corruption is, it's like they don't even bother to hide it. And in Trump's world, corruption is business and business is corruption. It's not the guy ever played by the rules. He certainly never really won, short of The Apprentice. I say if you examine his life, you will see that there is a distinct lack of credibility. I mean, when he threatens somebody, he may be real, but we don't need that anymore. We don't. We understand soft power. We don't need to always use hard power. And but again, that's Trump's hammer is military force, the only tool he knows. Whereas other people could create a tool, or shape a tool, or find something that's kind of malleable. Trump just doesn't do that. He's just in your face. Here, stop me. And we can only hope that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Come November. Come November. Matter of fact, I did a little rock and roll intro for the show the other day. I need to get a decent recorded version, but it's called "Roll Those Republicans," and I'll be sure and let you know when I get it up. Now, how about this? As if the world weren't in a big enough dumpster fire, and we know who started the dumpster fire. The conservative hardline government in Israel wants to formally evict Palestinians from the West Bank. It's like people are pathologically incapable of making things better. So can you, and once you have the control over the property, it's easy to evict. And I'm sure this is a few years in the making, because you have to change, or you have to initiate a proof of title by ownership, or proof of ownership by title system. And when land is just passed down and people live on the land for generations, there's no deed. We were here because we were here. And so once the Israelis figured out that if they controlled the land, they could control the people. Is this particularly helpful? Not right now. It's just another example of what poor or non-existing thinking will get you. There's just, I'm not much of a war guy, but I have some appreciation for how it's consummated, how it's done. And is there anything that gives anybody that's watching, listening, is anybody getting confidence that Trump actually had a plan? Of course he didn't have a plan. He just kind of winged it. And the reason he doesn't have a plan is because he lacks the ability to read and comprehend. Oh, by the way, if anybody agrees with me, give me a call at 949-629-3820. And let's have any thoughts about Sussannah Brown, or just about anything else, because God knows there's enough going around to be concerned about. Like I said, not the least of it's the IRS potentially funding a private army. And so where do the Palestinians go? The truth of the matter is nobody really cares. They've been pawns for the Middle Easterners against the Israelis for ages. And now that the poopy doo started to hit the road, or the fan or whatever the poopy doo hits, you can just see that we're getting the cold shoulder from everybody. We don't have any friends. The United States has no friends. And, excuse me, I'm sure that, Trump thinks Xi loves him, and Trump thinks Putin is his autocratic bro and all this. But the truth is, those guys are so much smarter than Trump that there's just no way he could negotiate a glass of water from those two. President Xi is 72, in fairly good health, and he watches what he eats. He's and you got a 79-year-old thug who lives on McDonald's cheeseburgers and Diet Cokes, and you expect this guy to negotiate seriously with anybody? I mean, she had his number a long time ago, Putin can't help but laugh at him to his face, you know. Um, and all the while, Trump is convinced that he's God. And like when you got people in the White House telling him that that Jesus died so he could be here, I guess that kind of, it's not like Trump needs much encouragement to think about himself or act for himself. Guys, it's the answer is Sussannah and others. Oh, and how about this? A lot of the Republicans still support Trump, but they want him to go in a different direction. In that case, you have to quit supporting Trump, pal. Otherwise, it's going to be the same direction. I'm almost a little shocked to see this in the New York Times. It was towards the back, but I'm still a little shocked to see it. And of course, just to show the corruption that's involved, the guy that's working on the reflecting pool, sorry, just so happens to be a golf course worker for Trump. And let's remember how this started out. It started out as $1 million paint job. And then somehow or other, work stops and the contractor gets fired. But lo and behold, the contractor was rehired with a $13 million no-bid contract. So again, all for me and nothing for you. All for me and nothing for you. I do hate repeating that. I hope everybody's kind of got it committed to memory because it's just so un-American. Whenever we have catastrophes, and Americans always talk about how the neighbors pulled together and this and the other, pool their resources. Does anybody think Trump would do any of that? Does anybody really think that? And if you do, then I've got some land I'd like to show you in Florida when the tide goes out. It might be a little while, but I'll show it to you. And then another credibility point I will show you later. And that Trump standard response when his tax returns were in question. As soon as they're audited, I'll disclose. And would you be surprised to learn that it hasn't happened? I wouldn't be. Every day I hope there's some shred of decency to be found in the world. And while there might be a shred of decency to be found in the world, it's probably not going to be in D.C., probably not going to be in Washington. And the Messiah certainly will not be named Donald. That we can, I think that's pretty cut and dry at this point. Yeah, and when it comes down to Trump as a savior, my God. Okay, let's see. And of course, the EPA is going to repeal some regulations dealing with forever chemicals. And, the Republicans think that their guys don't get involved with any of this. I mean, what are they actually thinking? And I'd kind of like to move on from the New York Times, the national scene, to let's kind of jump over to London and take just a quick look at the Financial Times today, because the New York Times was just overboard with the Trump and the $1.8 billion stuff. So, and the headline for the Financial Times, and they can only get two on their front page, as Xi told Trump Putin might regret his war in Ukraine. If you were in the South and somebody said that, they would, and something really obvious like that, the thing to come back with is, you reckon? And so you reckon Trump's going to do any of this? Of course not. Guys, here it is. I don't know if it's allergies or cold or something, but we're starting to sniffle and sneeze a little bit. And I'm so glad we didn't do that with chatting with Sussannah Brown from District 30, Cambria, Central Coast, and all that. I tell you, that was a real treat getting to speak with someone that refreshing, that smart, and that caring, and that grounded. I mean, I didn't get the sense she was proposing any pie in the sky answers. I got the distinct impression that not only could her suggestions be done, but I would also bet that her cost analysis shows the cost to be reasonable. I don't think she just throws money at problems. I think she analyzes very carefully and gives you her answer based on the data. That's such a foreign concept for these guys. And it's objective data. It's not like her made up data. It's data that was gleaned through honest research and asking questions and digging around. It's laziness is a bad trait, period, but it's a really bad trait in an American president. And the guy's just so lazy, he won't bother to read or much less look at the presidential daily briefings. He just kind of, whatever he wants to do. If it's tweeting or posting, whatever it is, 23 times at 3 in the morning, he'll do it. Now, keep in mind, anybody else would consider that behavior to be insane and off the charts. But for some reason, I don't know where these Trump guys brought their blinders, but they seem to be doing like really well. I mean, they're not looking too much left. They're not looking too much right. They're pretty much looking, you know what they're looking at? They're looking right out Trump's behind so they can get ready to kiss it. That's what they're doing. Matter of fact, I'm almost surprised it's not like an official butt kisser for Trump. I'm sure some of the other countries would do one on a Saturday Night Live basis. But anyway, want the editor. Oh, actually, let's go through the second headline. And the second was job ads expose a cultural shift in the United States. For instance, we need more auditors and we need AI. And now, this is a really short, sweet, to the point editorial opinion, rather, from the Times. And it was called America's Ailing One-Trick Pony. And the one-trick pony refers to the military. And one trick meaning it's the only thing you got. So if Trump's the only weapon he has is the U.S. military, then everything looks like a military problem, right? Guys, as when all your problems look like a nail, and everything looks like a hammer. You have a hammer, or if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And we're running up against the limits of that. Any other president would have taken into consideration the depletion of our weapons supply, the cost to station 10,000 people and a couple of big Pacific Fleet boats in the Middle East. But again, you got to remember that the overriding philosophy: everything for me and none for you. All for me and none for you. And not only is it none for, it's just all for me and none for you. If you want to vote for someone like that, I guess that's your business. But I'm going to submit to you that's really short-sighted. And you remember the other day we talked about how with the Strait of Hormuz being closed, a lot of people are using trucks in Syrian ports as an alternative. And, you can't blame the Syrians. They're trying to make a little money off the deal. And God knows there's enough of a risk with or without Trump in the Strait of Hormuz. But let's see, the next really interesting move to me, we know what Trump's got to do. He's The only way out of this is long, protracted negotiations. Bombing and war. Number one, because we ain't got that many bombs left. Okay, so that's kind of off the table. And at that point, Trump's flipping out. You have taken away his favorite, his only tool. You have taken away his hammer. What does he do to the nail? Well, won't that be interesting when that old poopy doo hits the fan? Let's see here. And let's remember that the shortage crisis brought about by the war in Iran, don't think that's anywhere near over. You know, Iran can still shut the strait down, and you know what? They don't even need a navy. They can deal with speedboats and drones. They don't need people. And how does that? And what are we spending money on when we ship 10,000 sailors? We're dealing with 10,000 people and their equipment. And the other guys have drones, and they're just excellent weapons. So, as the asymmetrical nature of warfare, Ukraine is on the verge of defeating Russia. And I think David might beat Goliath, but he ain't gonna beat him very often. If he beats him 1 out of 10, that's a lot. So yeah, Ukraine's David is going to slay Putin's dragon. How cool is that? Name a part of this. Not I can't neglect the downside. Let's say give us a call 949-629-3820 if you have any questions or want to chat. But this is Leslie. This is his only way out. He cannot blast his way out of this. And if you can't blast, you got to talk. And Trump doesn't do that, or can't do that. One of the two. This crisis may just be starting. And it's fun talking about a shortage. You remember back when COVID hit, and there was a backlog of cars because there was no microchips available, and they just weren't making many cars. And because the supply was so low, and the demand was relatively high, the price went up, and dealers started selling cars at, I don't know, let's say $10,000 over list. And let's say you buy I don't know, a Toyota Tacoma, and let's say the sticker price on that Tacoma is $45,000. I don't know what these things cost. I'm just guessing. So anyway, it's a sticker for $45,000, and let's say the dealer marks it up $5,000, and let's suppose he finances this at $50,000. So what's he doing? He is financing an asset for an amount more than it's worth. And that's how you get like negative equity. And what's starting to come home to roost is now that's 3, 4, 5 years after COVID, and these people kind of need another car. So they go to trade in the car, and they're still underwater on the car because of that extra $5,000 they charged. You were you're paying $50,000 for a $45,000 item and financing the whole thing. So there's no doubt that's going to take people down. And as far as general shortages, gas prices bounce around a little. But today, yesterday I got some gas. It was like $6.79 a gallon. And today it was $6.89. And I know it's only $1.80 over 18 gallons. But for a third of a tank, no, 2/3 of a tank of gasoline, I paid over $75. And I had plenty of gas in the car. I was just too scared about it keeping going up. I don't know what my fellow Americans are doing. You can't count on the federal government for help. Not from these guys. Biden and Obama, they couldn't wait to help with national disasters because that's what Americans do, right? We chip in and pitch in and help each other. And what's Trump do? No more FEMA. Fix it yourself, pal. And oh, by the way, we'll just kind of we'll keep your budget and reallocate it ourselves if you don't mind. I said the day-to-day challenges of this of Trump are just incredible. And Iran has bombed or hit, I guess, with drones, some infrastructure of the UAE, the Emirates. The Emirates ain't happy about that. Oh, and I want to tell you something else. Ukraine had hit a Russian oil refinery, and it's created this toxic cloud over the city, and it almost like rains oil. Okay, I mean it's so bad you cannot imagine. But what do? Ukraine is striking Moscow in within Moscow's vision, within Moscow's purview. They blew up the refinery. And forget about all the stuff they've been doing, the blowing up the boats, and they do this without a really strong infantry. Don't forget it. Ukraine don't have people to spare like this. The Russians probably lost 1 million. And the people that are being really pissed about that are going to be the wives and girlfriends when they realize their significant other is not coming back. Or if he's coming back, it may be with 3 limbs instead of 4. So yeah, so how do you solve the Iranian problem, or how does Trump solve it? He's just gonna kind of bop along day to day. You have to realize this. He doesn't care about the outcome. He doesn't care about anything except Trump and money. And as soon as you accept that premise, I think the sooner you'll have some sort of understanding of kind of how we got here and what Trump's really doing. You know what, guys? Well, hang on. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll just wait. It's not that much longer. I'm just gonna hook up some auxiliary power here, but it's at 1:45, and we'll go to about 2:00, and then stop it, just because that's when my voice starts to go. And I'll give you guys everything I have, but once my voice goes, there's just not much to be done. So, anyway, what are we gonna do about this? Like Sussannah said, we're encouraging people to join the local Democratic club. If you can, join to help. It's an all hands on deck drill, right? Even though it's as nice as it can be, and it's maybe 10 knot gentle breeze blowing, and the harbor's completely flat. Even though it's like this here, and we can't neglect the fact that the rest of the world and the rest of the United States are just being burned to the ground. And who are they being burned to the ground by? Well, the guy that's got a history of arson. Again, it's all in the background. No exotic moves. Nothing is necessary. Just a little look-see. And I love telling the story, and God knows I shouldn't do it, but my favorite Trump story with credibility, it revolves good old Stormy Daniels. I said, God, good on you, Stormy. And this was when they were having the affair not long after Barron was born in Lake Tahoe. And Trump is in the hotel room with Stormy. And later on at trial, the attorney asks, what color underwear was Mr. Trump wearing? Red. Okay. And you saw his penis, did you? Yes, I saw his penis. Well, did his penis have any distinguishing marks or characteristics about it? And someone goes, yes, it did. And the attorney goes, well, what were those characteristics? And I forgot if she said it hooked to the right, hooked to the left, whatever it was. She said something. So anyway, you got, so the attorney goes on and says, and this was right before you had intercourse? And Stormy goes, yes. And the attorney goes something like, well, uh, well, how was he in bed, actually? I mean, how would you rate his performance? And so, not so great, so on and so forth. So at this point, Stormy has testified that Trump is in her bed with red underwear, a distinct penis, like a distinct penis, and he wasn't very good in the sack. So Trump has to refute these points. He has to say, no, you're wrong. I had blue underwear on and I wasn't there. Or he can say, I think that I think that my penis is perfectly shaped. I don't think it has any mismarking or uniqueness. Okay. So maybe Stormy's wrong about the color underwear. Maybe Stormy's wrong about the physical characteristics of the penis. And maybe Stormy is also wrong about his performance in bed. Okay. So with that in mind, let's look at credibility. Who has a history of being believed and who doesn't? And usually when a person has a history of not being believed, it's because they lie. Even though I know that's sacrilege, I know everybody wants to put Trump on Mount Rushmore between George, I cannot tell a lie, Washington, and Honest Abe Lincoln. I mean, wouldn't that just make the trio complete? Isn't that like the missing triplet is Trump? Oh, guys, this is, we've really got to work on this. And, I think it's such a nice day out here. I'm almost having trouble concentrating, but I think we may call it a day a little earlier. I'm going to tell everybody if they would like to call in. 949-629-3820 will be on at noon tomorrow. And if you like what we're doing or want to share what your thoughts are, please do. On the other hand, if you're doing so incredibly well that you don't really have problems, then I would humbly ask you to visit the website, democracyradionetwork.com. And I don't want you to hit, I don't want you to tap, I don't want you to smash, I don't want you to do any of those things. What I want you to do is at the home page, when you see that PayPal donate button, I want you to smash the living daylights out of it and help Normie get his car worked on. So we can always stand a little help around here. You see, we actually believe, like Hillary Clinton does, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to do things. And I was so glad to have Sussannah on today and to let her tell me a little bit about, who she is and how she got there and her plans for the future. I think I can't help but want, if I could re-register and go out there and vote, I would. I'm kind of local down here, so I can't, of course, vote in their election. But I can certainly try to encourage everybody to vote and to vote for Sussannah Brown. So, guys, on that little, I guess you could call that an outright endorsement, couldn't you? Whatever you guys want to call it's fine. What I think is, like I said, starting to get a little post-nasal drip and throat's starting to go, so it's about time old Ab hit the road. So what I think I'm going to do is thank everyone for listening, watching. Thanks, Sussannah Brown, for coming on and spending a little time. And Sussannah, God knows you are always welcome. Just, matter of fact, send me videos, tell me how I can help. I'll be glad to. And anyway, I think that way back when in the old days, they used to say something like,